Hi, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me on this week's video. On this week's video, I'm excited to begin a new 4-part series, and today's going to be part 1. And over the next 4 weeks, I want to talk to you about some important ideas related to your QME reports. And the topic of this 4-week series that I want to share with you is going to be entitled QME Report Writing Mastery. Report Writing Mastery. And over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to share with you dozens of ideas, dozens of tips, dozens of procedures, dozens of principles, and dozens of ways that you can increase the content, increase the quality, increase the credibility, and increase the persuasive power of your QME reports. And that's going to be the recurring theme throughout this entire program, is how to increase the credibility and the persuasive power of your QME report. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to go over the following main ideas. For today, I'm going to share with you some introductory ideas and some general principles that will serve as recurring themes over the next 4 weeks. Next week, we're going to get into proper report formatting and the required elements of a modern QME report. And it's interesting because even though we're in 2015 and we're using principally I say, the AMA Guides 5th edition for our reports, on one hand, we still are doing some reports that relate back to the 1997 Permanent Disability Rating Schedule. And it's interesting because the 1997 Permanent Disability Rating Schedule was exclusively committed and devoted to workers' compensation in that era. Now we use the 2005 AMA Guides 5th edition since 2005, and the AMA Guides 5th edition was never designed to be used in workers' compensation. So while the AMA Guides 5th edition and permanent impairments reports require a certain type of report formatting, it's sometimes inconsistent with the report formatting required in workers' compensation. So what I want to share with you next week is what I call a hybrid report format that includes all of the components that we used to refer to in the 1997 Permanent Disability Rating Schedule and all of the components described by the 2005 Physician's Guide, both blended together to provide the end result of which is a permanent impairment report that's perfectly tailored to the workers' compensation system here in the state of California. So that's going to be a fabulous presentation that will help tremendously. And then the following week, as we build upon our concepts of proper report formatting, I want to illustrate how to properly format your report as it relates to the physical examination. And when we get into the physical examination section, we're going to use the lower extremity examination as our illustrative example to show how to properly format the physical examination section of your report so that the readers can quickly and accurately derive technical data from your physical exam. And it's interesting because the physical exam is the exclusive domain of us as doctors, but it's amazing that the parties and the reader of your report will frequently refer to the physical examination section in your report to look for support for your opinions and conclusions in the other sections of your report. So let me say that a different way. The opinions and conclusions that you offer in your report should be supported by your physical examination. And the parties or the reader of your report will refer back to the physical examination section to see if indeed your physical exam supports your opinions and conclusions. I can't tell you how many times I've been in deposition where one or other of the attorneys take me back to my physical exam section and ask me, Doctor, Where are the physical examination findings that support your opinion for X or your opinion for Y or whatever it is, fill in the blank? So the physical examination section, first of all, should be fabulous. It should be meticulous, and it should be properly formatted with charts, tables, and angles, and measurements, and graphs, and technical data that can be quickly and easily digested at a glance. And there's a way to perfectly and properly format it so that it accomplishes those objectives. And then finally, in week number 4, I want to talk to you about substantial medical evidence. Substantial medical evidence. Now, I've spoken about substantial medical evidence before, and in this program, I want to give you some practical suggestions and some practical ideas and some nuts and bolts as to how you can actually fashion your opinions and conclusions and then substantiate those opinions and conclusions with a how and with a why, and present it in such a way that the reader can get the sum and substance of not only your opinion, but also the support for your opinion, all in one fell glance. And in this way, your opinions and conclusions will qualify as substantial medical evidence and will be upheld, which is exactly what we want. When we offer our opinions and conclusions, we want to offer them in such a way that those opinions and conclusions are actually upheld. Okay? So I have a fabulous program for you over the next 4 weeks. And what we're going to do, this is going to be unlike any program that we've done in the past. We're going to use a combination of both live presentation, as for example, as I'm standing before you here right now, and then also we'll be going to the computer and going through some actual QME reports to locate both the good and the bad elements within QME reports. And let me just tell you part of the motive for producing this program. I recently have received a large volume of QME reports from different doctors who have asked me to comment on, to review, and to critique their QME reports. And so I've had an opportunity to read many, many reports from doctors of all specialties. And it's quite fascinating, actually, that every single doctor has their own spin on the work that we do and has their own unique perspective on the QME process. Each doctor does their physical exam different. Each doctor produces their report a little bit different. Each doctor uses a different type of language, uses a different type of system to actually get words from their mind onto the written page. And they're all correct. All of these doctors are producing results in some way, shape, or form. So throughout the course of this program, I'm not going to be talking to you about your spin, or about your perspective, or about how to analyze your case, or how to produce your conclusions, or any of that, because that would be trying to change something that's uniquely you, or something that's unique to you, and that's not what we're going to do. But what I want to focus on in this program is I want to focus on some ideas about how you present and how you report your findings and your opinions and conclusions, because it's how you report it that contributes to the credibility of your findings and also the persuasive power of your opinions and conclusions. And frankly, many doctors are presenting their QME reports in such a way that's simply not credible. It's simply not persuasive. Now, some doctors are doing an extremely good job, and some doctors are doing an extremely poor job. So it seems that reports seem to fall along a spectrum. Well, the theme of this program is for those doctors that are in the middle of the bell-shaped curve. There's 100 different ways that you can easily and instantly improve the quality of your report. And those are some of the ideas that I want to share with you in this program. This is not about changing your procedures. It's about changing the way in which you report and the way in which you write your QME reports. Okay? So we're going to be alternating back and forth between live presentation and the computer to illustrate all of these points. And today, in just a couple minutes, we're going to be going to the computer and getting started as we talk about some of these topics. But before we get there, I just want to begin with a couple of introductory remarks. And these are just general comments that I have that relate to QME reports in general. And the first of those has to deal with how you produce your QME reports. And it seems there's several different common ways that doctors will do their QME reports. Some doctors will sit down at the typewriter and they will type everything out, and as the words flow from their mind down through their fingers, they appear on their computer screen through the action of the doctor typing. Many doctors use voice recognition software such as Dragon Naturally Speaking. I myself use Dragon Naturally Speaking intermittently. Not exclusively, but I use it for parts of my QME report, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Some doctors use report writing software. Report writing software that they use in other aspects of their clinical practice. They have adapted the report writing software to accommodate the work that they're doing as qualified medical evaluators. So I just want to make a couple of comments about these. Number one, if you're using report writing software from your clinical practice, it's my opinion and it's my recommendation that you discontinue doing that. The report writing software that you may use in your clinical practice, and most of these report writing softwares are associated with the personal injury side of our practice, in no way, shape, or form relate in any way, to the work that we do as qualified medical evaluators. And some doctors are trying to adapt this software to accommodate a QME report, and it's simply trying to put a round peg into a square hole. And if you're using report writing software, I want you to know that the reader of your report knows it, because it stands out like a sore thumb. These report writing softwares, while they may be good, they're far from excellent. And just as some examples, I was reading a report yesterday that I could tell within the first paragraph that it was produced by report writing software. I could tell because sometimes there are words that are capitalized that should not be capitalized. There are words in the middle of the sentence that are bolded that should not be bolded. The sentence structure sometimes uses improper syntax and improper grammar. And these randomized text generators, these report writing softwares, are not intended for use in California workers' compensation, and they're not intended for use of the AMA Guides 5th edition, and they stick out like a sore thumb. And let me just tell you that if the reader of your report suspects that your report is being written with report writing software, it instantly raises suspicion as to the accuracy, as to your attention to detail, and as to the credibility of the report. And let me just tell you that the accuracy and the credibility suffers greatly. So if you're using report writing software, I want to encourage you to adopt and adapt a separate and distinct template and a separate and distinct system for doing your QME reports that's apart and distinct from the system that you use for producing reports in other aspects of your clinical practice. So that's one comment about report writing software. Another comment regarding voice recognition software is that voice recognition software is great. I use it myself. I use Dragon Naturally Speaking. It's excellent. It's excellent. It's very accurate. It's very quick. But what's important to note and important to remember is that when you use report writing software, you have to dictate in such a manner that's consistent with the way people read. And many times when we speak, we don't speak with punctuation, comma. We speak all the way through without periods, without capitalizing the first word of our sentences, without using exclamation marks when we're really excited. And we speak one way and we read and write another way. And many times doctors, they don't dictate the punctuation. They don't dictate the text formatting that's so all caps, powerful, exclamation mark. And they don't go back and proofread to make sure that the formatting is proper for the way that we read compared to the way that we speak. So if you're using voice dictation systems, I have no issue with that. My only comment is to encourage you to go back, proofread, and make sure to insert the appropriate punctuation, and also to proofread very carefully to make sure that the voice recognition system has captured your words accurately. Because as we know, many times it confounds and confuses the words. And when the reader of the report sees confused and confounded words, instantly the accuracy and the credibility of the report becomes suspect. And that's the last thing we want. We want the reader of our report to be with us from the beginning, to have faith and confidence and belief in us from the beginning. And we want the reader of our report to be impressed with our attention to detail, our accuracy, and our organization of our thought. And nothing conveys that better than a properly and perfectly formatted and a perfectly proofread report. So there's a couple ideas there on report writing software and voice recognition systems. Second comment that I want to talk to you about has to do with clarity. Clarity is key. Clarity is essential. Clarity of the written word is supposed to convey clarity of thinking. And many of the reports that I'm reading are not clear. What's the opposite of clear? The opposite of clear is unclear, is scattered, is all over the place, with no format and no connection and no logical flow through the report. You want to lead your reader to the logical end conclusion when you get to the end of the report. All of the report should lead naturally to the end conclusion, which is your opinions on permanent impairment, your opinions on causation, your opinion on apportionment of the permanent impairment, and then possibly your opinions on future medical care, possibly your opinions on work restrictions. By the time the reader of the report gets to those sections of the report, they should be able to almost fill in the conclusions for themselves by following through the logical progression of your report. And so clarity is essential. So in order to produce clear reports, you have to be first clear in your own mind. You have to organize your data clearly in your own mind before you put it on paper. You have to organize your argument clearly in your mind before you put it on paper. You have to construct your opinions and conclusions clearly, first to yourself, before you can possibly convince the reader of the truthfulness and accuracy of your opinions and conclusions. So clarity is essential. Well, fortunately, there's a couple of very simple procedures that I can share with you that will help immediately to improve the clarity of your report. And it simply involves the proper use of text formatting, which is available to us in our word processing software, whether that be WordPerfect or Microsoft Word. You know, the developers of these programs thought of everything before we came along. And so they've provided us with formatting tools, the purpose of which are to improve the clarity of our written words. So I'm going to be speaking to you quite a bit about how to more clearly report your findings and report your opinions and conclusions. Okay, so that's another general topic. A third general topic that I want to talk to you about, and this is going to be a recurring theme throughout today's program and into the weeks that come. And that is, I want to talk to you about how to present your material in a way that's useful in the workers' compensation system. You know, all the parties in the workers' compensation system, all they're trying to do is they're trying to do their job. So claims administrators, applicant attorneys, defense attorneys, the disability evaluation unit, workers' compensation judges, and all the parties that come across our reports simply want to get their jobs done, and they rely on our reports in order to do that. And so we need to format our reports and present our reports in such a way that the parties can easily obtain and extract the necessary information that they need in order to do their jobs. So as far as working in the workers' compensation system, we want to present our information to them in a certain way. And now, the way that we present our information to them is going to be a slight variation on the theme as to the way we present information to any party in any industry. Because people in general, all operate the same. And so we can take some general principles as to how the human mind works and how the human brain processes information and apply that information to the parties involved in the workers' compensation system so that they can quickly, easily, and accurately extract the information that they need, they can do their job, and they can move on and forward with the next case. So let's talk here very briefly about how the human mind processes information. And it's interesting, the human brain processes information exactly like our modern computers do. I'm sure you've heard this said. In fact, our modern computers and the softwares that we use, the very best softwares that are available on the market today, are the best and most popular softwares because they most closely approximate the flow of information similar to the way that the human brain processes information. So I want you to know, and I want to introduce the topic, that the human brain processes information and stores information and retrieves information from both short and long-term memory through the use of folders. Through the use of folders, just like our computers do. So let me illustrate this principle to you. I want you to think of a color, I want you to think of a flower, and I want you to think of a piece of furniture. Okay? Color, flower, and a piece of furniture. Okay? Now, what are you most likely thinking of? You're most likely thinking of the color red, a rose, and either a couch or a chair. Correct? Color red, flower rose, piece of furniture, chair or couch. Why is that? Because when I say to you, think of a color, what happens is your mind goes into its long-term memory and it retrieves a folder called the color folder. And in the color folder is a listing of all the colors that you've ever experienced in your lifetime in order of frequency. And red, the top of the spectrum, remember Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, red is at the top of the spectrum. Red is the most common color, and so the red is at the top of the folder labeled color. Okay? Now, also in your long-term memory is a folder entitled flowers. And in that folder is a listing of all the flowers that you've ever heard of and that you've ever experienced. And the ones that you've planted and the ones that you've cut, those are in different subfolders. And the ones that you've bought in bouquets are in another subfolder, all contained within the general folder named the flower folder. And the same goes for the furniture folder. When you open the furniture folder in your mind, the most common pieces of furniture are listed there, of which couch or chair is the most common. So the mind and the memory operates through the use of folders. Well, in the workers' compensation system and in our QME reports, we want to present our material to the reader in the form of folders so that they can simply go to the appropriate folder, extract the information that they need for the work that they do. And different parties look at different folders. but they go straight to the folder and extract the information that they need. So we want to present the information to them properly in folders. We'll talk about the folders when we get into the required elements. So let me just further illustrate the necessity of properly formatting your report into folders. Now, I've recently read some reports that have no formatting at all. No formatting that in any way relates to workers' compensation. There's just a series of unbroken text in paragraph form that goes on for pages after pages after pages. And you're looking for the salient points and features, and it's nowhere to be found. And in my opinion, if I was a claims administrator, I would not pay for those reports, because those reports are simply just gibberish. They don't solve the issue. They don't help resolve the dispute. So let me illustrate one more example as to how the mind operates through the use of folders. And I'm going to give you a series of instructions here to illustrate this principle. I want you to pay very close attention and stay with me as we go through this example. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to think of a number from 1 to 9. A whole number, let's say a whole number from 2 to 9. Pick any number between 2 and 9. Okay? You have that number in your mind? Okay. Now I want you to take that number and multiply that number by 9. Okay? And come up with your product of your number times 9. Okay? So that is some type of a two-digit number. When you multiply a number by 9, you then get a two-digit number. So I want you to take those 2 digits of your two-digit number, and I want you to add those together. So if it's 2 and a 5, 25, add the 2 and the 5 for a total of 7. If it's a 3 and a 6, add those two together for a total of 9. Okay, so take your two-digit number, add them together. This will then give you a single-digit number. Okay? Now, from this single-digit number, what I want you to do is I want you to subtract the number 5. Okay? And come up with your answer as to what your single-digit number minus 5, what does that equal? Okay? So you have that number in your mind? Okay. Now what I want you to do is, whatever your number is, I want you to assign a letter to that number with the following system. If your number is the number 1, I want you to assign the letter A to your number. If your number is 2, that would be a B. If your number is 3, that would be a C. If your number is 4, that would be a D. If your number is 5, that would be an E, and so on. Okay? So do you have your letter associated with your number? Okay? Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a country that begins with that letter. Okay? Do you have your country? Good. Now, take the second letter in the name of that country, and I want you to think of an animal that begins with that letter. Not a bird, but an animal. Pick an animal that begins with the second letter of your country. Okay? Now, in your mind, I want you to picture the color of that animal. I want you to picture the number of legs that that animal has. And isn't it amazing how many gray, four-legged elephants there are in Denmark? Did you catch that? Did you have a gray, four-legged elephant from the country of Denmark? And if you did, that perfectly illustrates how the mind operates through the use of folders. And all I simply did throughout that whole example was take you through a progression of folders extracted from your long-term memory. The mind operates through the use of folders. And the QME report is the perfect opportunity to use folders to make it simple and easy for the reader of the report to get the information that they need so that they can then carry on with their job duties. Okay, so at this point I want to now take you down to the computer, and we're going to begin by talking about the required elements and proper report formatting. So I look forward to being back with you in just a couple minutes as we continue along on part 1 of QME Report Writing Mastery.